Hey, what's up guys, it's Jay. So it's been a couple months since I made the original video about the Cyclone 2. And I kind of compared it to the Vader 4 Pro that I had here. I bought it around the same time. But originally I bought the Vader 4 Pro first, and I thought, hey, like it seems really good. There's just some things I didn't like about it, and I'll talk about those in a little bit later. But then I saw the Cyclone 2 that came out recently around the same time that I bought the Vader 4 Pro, and I was like, okay, let me get that. And then, I ended up keeping both of them for a little bit, and I'm like, okay, I don't really want to have two, and if I can only have one, which one would it be? And in the impressions video I did, I'll link it down below, the like button there. I did mention maybe the Cyclone 2 would have been the one. At the time, I didn't do much performance stuff with the Cyclone 2 because I just got it in. So I didn't really have time to do that. But over the holidays and just playing with both controllers more, I have a more definitive opinion now. And let's go and get started. So if you guys found this video or the other video helpful, it would really help me if you guys would subscribe. Hit that bell notification icon. That way you guys get the up-to-date videos at the right time. If you haven't watched the previous one, I'll kind of summarize what that video was in this one, just so if you don't want to watch it, but if you want the details, just again, watch that one. So basically, the Cyclone 2 is kind of like an Xbox controller, just a little bit smaller. This horizontal part right here is a little bit wider. Kind of like a Switch Pro controller if you ever used one, but it kind of essentially is just like Xbox layout, right? Not much buttons going on here, right? Just your typical start select. I think this is like a kind of emulating like a DS4, DS5 kind of touchpad sensor. So this actual chip is using like a PS4, DS4, whatever you want to call it, sensor or chip. So when you plug it into your PC, it registers as a DualShock controller. It does have a M button. It's for like you want to switch profiles, stuff like that. It does have lighting, which I can't get this seem to work right now. There's something funky with the controller, but it does have lighting. This is like translucent and stuff. You'll be able to see colors and stuff. And you have your typical, triggers, bumpers. Really nice and easy to get to. You notice that they are translucent, and they do have this little stick here that you can kind of push back and forth, and then that makes it a really easy trigger to press through. You don't have to press all the way. It acts like a mouse button versus like if I didn't do it. You have some travel there. I didn't mention that these sticks are TMR sticks, so they're quote unquote better than your typical Hall effect sensors. But to be honest, I don't really notice a huge difference in terms of like the technology, but I believe it. It's probably better, probably lasts longer, all that stuff. You do have quite a bit of texture here on this side here, on the top portion, right? On that side as well, you have quite a bit of grip there as well. Goes all the way up to the bumper here. And if you guys didn't already notice that there are more of that same texture at the trigger and the bumper part. So you typically would hold the controller like so. Kind of like in between the two. You don't really like hold it like this. I don't think that's how they intended it. Just the fact that it's a little bit smaller than like your typical Xbox controller. And when I mean like smaller, I mean like it's very, very much like slightly smaller. But you hold it like this, so it's really easy to kind of get to both buttons. So if you had this as a, button like this, right, you just click it. It's super easy to just move your finger down. Super easy to get to. That's probably the best part I like about this controller among the other things. The buttons themselves are actually, I prefer these over the Vader 4 Pro because they're flatter, they're wider. Like the click itself, is a little bit softer than it's a little bit harder than the Vader 4 Pro. Now, again, I bought these around the same time, so it might just be the switches. So but I still overall just prefer the Cyclone 2 just because the buttons like a little bit more flatter, kind of like an Xbox, or sorry, kind of like a DualShock kind of setup versus like an Xbox a little bit more round, kind of similar to the Vader 4 Pro. D-pad thing on this, I've seen people online complaining about it, saying it's just really bad, blah, blah, blah. And personally, I think it's fine. I don't play a lot of like platformer games, so I'm not really using the D-pad like 100%. The only like fighting game I do play is like Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, but even then that's a 3D, versions, 3D fighter, arena fighter. So you're using the joystick for the most part. And so, I've more or less gotten away from like D-pad centric games. So, but I will say, just trying to use it, it's not the greatest. Like this D-pad is just, it's serviceable. But if your main game is like Street Fighter, Tekken, etc., any of those 2D fighter games, you might not like this controller. You probably won't like this controller. It does have a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, so that's great, especially if you're console gaming, right? You want to have easy access. Now, I haven't tested it myself. I tested it on a computer, like on PC, but I haven't tested it on my Xbox, which is broken right now. But I do have a PC that's hooked up to my TV, so I will eventually try to get to that. But I don't find that it's a huge need for me, personally. Both these controllers do have this attachment hook or attachment setup that you can, I think, like buy an attachment and then you put your phone on it, on that attachment, and then you can just game via Bluetooth. So that's quite nice. Now, performance-wise, again, I haven't really noticed a huge deal in terms of like latency. I'm mainly just using 2.4 gigahertz connection there, so it's not like I don't really notice a huge like latency or anything like that. I'm not playing like FPS games, multiplayer games with these kind of controllers in general. So I wouldn't say, it's noticeable or not noticeable, but to me, it's not noticeable. So yeah, there you have it. Now the Vader 4 Pro, this one, right? Xbox layout, more or less. The buttons, more round, like I mentioned. Start and select, a little bit bigger than the Cyclone 2. You have extra buttons in C and Z. You can program them to whatever you like. The unique features of this one is the tension adjustments, so you can just adjust it per game, however you want, whenever you want. That's really nice. Doesn't have it on the Cyclone 2. So you also have the circle D-pad. Really easy to do diagonals. Like if you're trying to play fighting games, I mentioned it in the impressions. It's really easy to get to, super easy to click. Cyclone 2, a little bit, stiffer on the clicks, but also it's the normal, plus sign D-pad, so not as easy to do special moves and stuff like that, so quite easy on this one. And I just prefer circle D-pads in general, so for me, this is a win. Don't really like the small buttons for the home and function button. They're really tiny. I don't know why. Also the LEDs kind of could be better, but in terms of the plastic though, I do like the Vader 4 Pro a little bit better just because it's non-translucent and plastic quality feels a little bit better than the Cyclone 2, but I think that's just subjective at this point. There's not much like rough texture here, like versus the Cyclone 2. It does have some rough texture on the bottom of the grip portion where you put your hand, base of your hand. So, you could probably say this has more grip, better, but I think they're personally about the same. If I had to pick one, right, Cyclone 2 definitely better in that sense, but overall, not a huge deal. You have your pogo pin connector for your charger on the bottom here. No headphone jack, so that's a minus. I would think that, especially for a controller that's more expensive than the Cyclone 2. You have your trigger stop here. Put them up. You're good to go there. Like so. Really easy. A lot easier than the Cyclone 2, so also another plus. I don't know why the Gamesir didn't just do this. very standard. You have your switch connector here. You can switch to switch, Bluetooth, or the dongle. You also have your back buttons. I didn't really talk about the back buttons on the Cyclone 2, just because I wanted to talk about it here. Cyclone 2 or the Vader 4 Pro, it's just better, it has more buttons. Now the placement is, to be desired, but they're not like the worst thing in the world. You can get to them, like they're fine, but I think at that point it's kind of nitpick, especially you're paying this kind of pricing. You're like, come on guys, you should be able to do something better. Like the Ghoulie kit, I think it has a better layout than the Vader 4 Pro, but I think in general the Vader 4 Pro just kind of eclipses the Ghoulie kit just in general. Better sticks, better features on the sticks, better D-pad, more buttons. So if you're a fighter, this is like probably the best fighting controller you can probably get, I would imagine. Just having the extra buttons and then be able to adjust these tensions here for any game. Circle D-pad, kind of just has everything you need, especially for a fighter or just in general. Let's talk about these bumpers and triggers. Easy to get to, again, very much like an Xbox. These triggers do have a separate vibration motor on here, so when you're playing games that don't support it, but when you're like going through something where it triggers the main vibration motors, it will trigger the trigger ones. And so it's actually kind of nice. It's doing the same effect, but it's on the triggers, so it's kind of nice actually. But for games that do support it, it's quite nice, especially on the PC. If you have this on connected to your PC, when you're playing games that use the trigger, that's able to utilize this function. Really nice feature on top versus the Cyclone 2. And I will say, speaking of vibration, I've been kind of going back and forth with the controllers in general, but I think what's tipping me over is the vibration, because whatever reason, I can't get the Cyclone 2's vibration motor to like be the lowest possible. It's super strong even at the lowest setting. The Vader 4 Pro definitely has more of a range, and I feel like the vibration is actually better here. It's more nuanced. And what I mean by nuance is like it feels kind of like a PlayStation 5 controller if you've ever used one. Just more range, able to you can kind of feel it all over the controller, but it's not like too strong where it's like it's from this section here, versus like the Cyclone 2, you literally only feel it here kind of thing. It just feels weird overall. So yeah. So I think that's about it for just the main comparisons. Now, of course, we have to talk about price, and price is always a factor for most people, but I think for me, I'm just gonna pay the extra. I'm from the US, so I'm gonna pay the extra for the Vader 4 Pro. I paid about $100 for the controller and the dock. I still don't like the dock that when you dock it, it has the light on all the time and never turns off. So I hope Flydigi can, update their software to fix that. Super annoying. But other than that, I think for value, like price for value, the Gamesir are probably just hands down. You pay $50 on Amazon or $60 depending on when you get it. You get a dock, comes with everything. It's all in one. You get TMR sticks. It's a good buy. I mean, it's kind of hard to beat, right, in terms of price, but in terms of just features and everything in total, I think the Vader Pro just has more of that, right? Obviously, you're paying more, but if you find like these two controllers are like, like 15, $20 difference just for the controllers themselves, I think you might just go with the Vader Pro. You just have the extra features. I don't care about the LEDs. You can just turn that off if you don't care about it or it gets annoying. So yeah, I hope you guys find this video helpful. If you did, again, please consider liking, subscribing, and then yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Peace.